I think we live in a day and age where we put luxury above everything else, but luxury was supposed to be attained after you had the basics. Hello guys, and welcome once again. So as you can tell from the title of this video, we're going to be talking about the different types of savings. And because I can speak for England, I just want to go straight into it. So the reason I'm coming up with the different types of savings is because a lot of people I know who save, including myself, usually save for the sake of saving. And one of the common traits I've noticed when people just save for the sake of saving is they don't prioritize it, because sometimes life happens, and also they're not motivated to continue to do so. That's why a lot of people always, and not all the time, because different things work for different people. I know people who have no reason for why they save, but they just continue going on with savings, and that's absolutely fine as well. But it is, I would say, wise to have, a reason of why you're saving. So like maybe a motivation, because that pushes you to continue saving, and also it helps you allocate your money better. So if you know this is what I'm saving for, and this is something else I'm saving for, you wouldn't use the money for both of them, or vice versa, if that makes sense. So that's why I feel like it's important to know why you're saving, first of all. That keeps the momentum going, and it helps you continue to just go at it until you reach that goal. Having said that, I'm just gonna go down my list. Now this is just, I've had to shorten it to 5 things, because as you can tell from my videos, I do love my lists. But I've had to shorten it to 5 things. But this is, you can add your own reason. You could, add your own goal. But yeah, let's go straight into it. So the first thing, which is my favorite one, is the emergency fund. So this was made popular, at least I came across it anyways. I'm not too sure if he was the one who made it that popular, but I came across it listening to Dave Ramsey. So it always talks about an emergency fund, and he always talk about the $1,000 emergency fund, which for me, I've just converted to pounds. £1,000 is more in dollars than is more than $1,000, if that makes sense. So but £1,000 is just, just kind of works. And yeah, so an emergency fund is literally what it is. It's when you have an emergency, that's the money you take from. So if your car breaks down and you didn't take, you didn't have breakdown cover, then the money you're going to use to repair that car would come from emergency fund. If your car gets stolen and your insurance isn't going to cover you, then you might use your emergency fund to buy a really not so nice car till you're able to get the one you really want. So that's what an emergency fund is for. And like I mentioned, the £1,000 emergency fund was really made popular by Dave Ramsey, and I believe in it. I actually think everybody should have a £1,000 emergency fund, only because yeah, I've had my own experiences. So I remember last year I spent the whole of last year just really tackling my debt. At this point, I did have an emergency fund. It wasn't up to 1,000, I'm not gonna lie, and I did have an emergency that was more than that emergency fund that I already had saved. And what happened is, even though I was close to being 0.0 at my debt, I ended up having to take out a small loan simply to just cover the emergency. So that made me realize why on the baby steps, the emergency fund is the first thing you should save for. So when you're paying off debt, then you want to save that £1,000 emergency fund, so that when you do have an emergency, you can use that £1,000 instead of taking out a loan. So that's why that's important. And then the second thing I think that's really important that you should save up for is living expenses. Okay, is literally saving up your monthly salary, if that makes sense. So let's say you get your monthly salary after tax is 1,300, and so your bills and everything every month, so your food, transport, everything you need to live cost you about maybe 1,200. So what you would do is times that. So let's say you're saving 3 months expenses, so you probably times that 1,200 by 3, and then that's your 3 months expenses. So literally what your living expenses is like, what would you need? Like if you were to lose your job, yeah, how long could you survive for? So that's it. So a lot of the times, most people would say about 6 months, but I would say depending on the kind of, so if you're single, you could probably go about 3 to 4 months. If you've got a family, then you probably want to go about 6 months, because you really need that room for safety, because now other people are dependent on you. So I would personally suggest probably about 3 to 6 months, because in an ideal world it'll probably take you about 3 to 6 months max for you to get a new job. So that is really important. And also I would say personally, I know people don't really like this, because I have told my friends this and some of them disagree, and that's fine, you know, each to their own. Remember, these are just guidelines, they are not rules, you know, set in concrete. These are just guidelines, right? But before you buy a house, you definitely want to have some living expenses, because if things go down, which they will, not because I'm being negative, because that's just life. Life happens. You want to ensure that you are prepared. So I would say 3 to 6. If you were getting a house, I would say, well, depending on how quick you want the house, if you're one of those people you just want to go in and get it, then 3 would be good. It's a bit risky, so you're probably better than people who have zilch at all. So at least 3 to 6 month expenses saved before you get a house. So the third thing is saving for accommodation, but really what that is actually saving up for a house. So for me, if you were a single person or you were a couple, I would have, and I was going to advise you, depending on your financial situation and, you know, the amount that you have and debt and things like that, I'll probably go down the list as I was. So I'll be like, hey guys, you need to save up for an emergency fund. Your emergency fund, as far as I'm concerned, for me, the way I do things, is actually separate from your living expenses. So you want to have your emergency fund. The emergency fund is literally for what it is, emergency. So your boiler breaks, you use your emergency fund. You don't use your living expenses to fix your boiler, you use your emergency fund. You know, your car breaks down, you use your emergency fund. You spend a little bit too much at Christmas and, you know, you need the money to pay off your bills, you use your emergency fund. You don't use your living expenses. You lose your job, you use your living expenses. Okay, so that's how it works. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, if I was a couple, I'll tell you to have your emergency fund and then have your living expenses and then save up for your deposit. So you need to have your emergency fund and your living expenses before you save up for the deposit. Now, that in itself, there's not much to say about saving up for a deposit. It's just you saving up for a deposit. But make sure you do have you do use the tax breaks and all the incentives and schemes that the government have. So if you don't have a lifetime ISA and you're under the age, I can't remember, I think it's under the age of 40, if I am not mistaken. I think, yeah, so if you're under the age of 40 and you're buying your first house, then you probably want to get an ISA, because for every every up to £4,000 you save, then you get £1,000 from the government, if they're still doing that. I did to research on that. But yeah, so with saving up for accommodation or for a house, you know, that is what it is. The fourth thing that I can think about that would go on this list is saving up for a holiday. Now, this is very controversial, because even while people are saving up for houses, while they're saving up for this and that, they still want to go on holiday. So if, again, I'll use the analogy of a couple, and if they were like, oh, you know, we still want to go on holiday and save some money for the house, that's perfectly fine. Remember, these are your goals. This is how you want to spend your money. So as long as you have as long as you have that room for error, which is what your emergency and your living expenses are for, then by all means make sure you are saving up for a holiday. So you could save up for a holiday. It could be your luxurious holiday, or it could be for you to just go somewhere close and just have fun. So ensure you're saving up for holidays. The only thing I'll say about saving up for holidays, don't just save for your ticket and the hotel. Save for your expenses as well. That's my favorite word. Because there's nothing, at least for me, there's nothing more worse than going on holiday and just not having enough money to buy souvenirs and just buy stuff, because I love stuff. I want to save, I want to invest, but I still love stuff, and I don't have a problem with loving stuff. Just ensure that everything else is secured before you start buying stuff. Do you get what I mean? You know, you can have the Birkin, you can have the perfume and stuff, but don't have a Birkin and perfume and be living in a council flat. Like, not there's nothing wrong with living in a council flat, like, before people come at me, like, yeah, but like, you know, let's be wise, especially if we want that financial freedom. Yeah. And the fifth thing I do have on here is just luxuries. So luxury is a word that is just okay. So there's that saying, and another man's food is another man's poison, right? I don't know if that's a Nigerian saying. Is that a Nigerian saying? I'm not too sure, but I heard a lot of Nigerians say it. So another man's food is another man's poison. Okay. Yeah. Luxury would depend on whoever it is. For some people, luxury is, you know, having Boutigas. For some people, luxury is having Harry Winston. For some people, it's Hermes. For some people, it's simply just having a place that they could call theirs, that they don't have to pay a mortgage for. Or for some people, it's literally just getting a new car. It doesn't matter what make it is. It doesn't matter what it is. But luxury is luxury. And if you have the excess money for luxury, I think we live in a day and age where we put luxury above everything else, but luxury was supposed to be attained after you had the basics, but some people put luxury before the basics. Now, if you want true financial independence, then you need to put your basics before your luxury. So I think it's pretty useless for you to save up for luxury if you don't have the basics. That's just me. I know people who saved up for Louis Vuitton bags when they didn't even have a place to stay, and ended up saying the Louis Vuitton bag just to be able to have somewhere to stay. That is just a madness, and that's not good financial practice. So if you really did want not just financial practice, you want freedom, you want peace of mind, then put your basics before luxury. We've come to the end of the list, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please comment one thing that you have learned from this video, and then one thing that you would like me to talk about when it comes to savings. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, whatever day you're watching this on, and I will see you in my next video.